Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Eagle Eye Podcast. It's episode 8, and boy, do we have a special show for you guys. Lots and lots to talk about. So, hope you guys are ready. Hope you guys got your tacos because it should be one hell of a show. So, we got plenty to talk about, plenty to discuss. We got Veracruz, Conca Champions, Tijuana, everything. But before anything, let me introduce my co-host, as always, the man himself, Mr. Dylan Jimenez. Dylan, how are you?
Doing good, man. Another day in the life of a college student, so it's going good.
All righty, all right. And joining us today, we have a very special guest. You may know him from the Mexican Soccer Show or from his famous hashtag Ask Cesar articles. We are honored and proud to have one of the pioneers of the Liga MX English community, the one, the only, the great Cesar Hernandez. Cesar, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you guys. And let it be known that you guys were the professionals here. You guys were ready like 20 minutes before the show even started. I showed up like 3 minutes beforehand, like some sort of diva of some sort. I don't know. I was I was at the store. I thought I had more time. So apologies to these guys because they were on time and ready, and I showed up at the last second.
We were worried. We were calling your agent. We were very worried that you had not showed up to the set, and we were starting to panicking. But we got you. We were gonna refrain to our to go and interview your cat, but you made it.
It's she's more of a Pumas and Tigres fan, so I don't know. That wouldn't really make sense on this podcast, I guess.
Yeah, well, yeah. I guess it wouldn't have made much sense. But again, thank you for finishing your grocery shopping in time so you could be able to make it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, once again, thank you so much, guys, for having me on the show. I'm excited to be talking about America. Excited to talk about the CONCACAF Champions League. Excited to talk about Xolos because clearly I cover a lot of the Xolos out here in San Diego. So another opportunity to talk about the team from Tijuana.
Alrighty. All right. Well, gentlemen, let's jump right into it. We got Veracruz up first. This is a game that we previewed here and said it was gonna be. We thought it'd be a little bit more of an exciting matchup coming into this one. It kind of disappointed on both ends. I think as an Americanista, everyone was actually hoping to get a pretty big result. At the end of the day, you get a draw, which ultimately isn't the worst result coming out of Veracruz. But I'm gonna throw it at you first, Dylan. What was your initial reaction seeing that the result was 1-1?
To me, it was a little frustrating because we had our chances, we had our opportunities. Just one thing we brought up too was bringing our shooting boots and finishing, and that's one thing we kind of didn't do. And you see the team get frustrated throughout the match a little bit too. And it's just frustrating not to walk away with 3 points because the 3 points were there for us to grab. But, America just didn't grab those 3 points. Instead, we walk away with the point.
Yeah. Yep, it was frustrating at the end. Now I'm gonna throw it out to you, Cesar, because I know this was a matchup that you and the Mexican Soccer Show people were doing your Liga MX and Chill Sunday.
That little weird project we do, kind of strange.
It's strange, but actually kind of cool. So what was your thoughts on the 1-1 result in Veracruz?
I mean, those last 3 to 4 minutes were kind of crazy, right? I mean, that was a lot of fun to watch right there. I mean, I think regardless of who you're rooting for right there, that was, I mean, a little fantastic ending there. I think you got to give some credit to Melito Hernandez because when I was watching with the other guys, we're kind of almost making fun of the fact that Melito Hernandez was stepping in net for Pedro Gallese. And as soon as Melito Hernandez stepped in the game, I thought, all right, if I was America, I'm just going to take shots from distance, take chances on this guy. But I think Melito had a great game. I think he had a really good game. If it wasn't for that save, he had the really, 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 really like dying moments of the game. America could have walked away with 2 goals in injury time there. It was really, really close. So, I mean, I think, if we're looking at a little bit more of stuff beforehand, I did think that it was going to be a little bit easier for America, but you got to give credit to Veracruz's defense. I thought players like Osmar Mares, of course, you guys are very familiar with him. I thought he did well. Palmera Rivas, I thought did well. And of course, like I said, like Melito Hernandez, despite the goal that he allowed, I thought he had a great game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he was a surprise overall in the matchup. I think everyone was kind of saying, well, Melito Hernandez coming in, he's always a goalkeeper that you can never really know what to expect from him. He can have an absolutely amazing game, or he can have 3 three shockers in one matchup. And I think he stepped up to the plate, granted to him. I think America did their best in regards to when he came in. We saw a lot of shots, but I mean, we saw a great performance from him. I think at the end of the day, you kind of have to tip your hat off to him. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Dylan, with the fact? I know you mentioned like we've been discussing our shooting boots and everything. We brought it to some extent. We didn't really finish some of our chances, but I think you have to merit the fact that Meliton had an actually pretty good game.
Yeah, it was definitely a good game. Those 45 minutes that he played. Going back to that saves Cesar talked about. At the very end. I think the ref actually blew the whistle as that cross was going in.
Oh, really?
But yeah, I think so if I remember that right. But I mean, regardless of the whistle being blown, it was still a fantastic save. Just to keep it out of the net. Had a couple great saves too, which shows that he could be a good keeper too as well, but just kind of inconsistent too in the net as well.
What an assist there for Henry Martin at the end, right? I had to watch that a few times to try to figure out like what happened. And everything just happened so quickly with that equalizer from America, and then just to see that assist from Henry Martin was pretty impressive, especially after the season he's had so far.
No, yeah, definitely. I think the craziest thing is if you actually look from the corner onto the point where the goal is scored, Aguilera lunges himself to kind of head that ball back. Doesn't even get close to with his head. I think he hits the back of his shoulder, which then the ball finds Henry. Henry just instinctively just back heels it. But the greatest, I think, move that was made in that box was the one of Oriol Peralta, who kind of looked like he went to go for the shot, but actually shielded it, which made it more possible for that ball to roll through. And then, of course, you had Bruno Valdez there ready to poke it into the back of the net.
So even had his back to net, even like 1 yard away from net.
Yeah. That's I mean, it was a great move. It was a great result. How much of that was actually intended, I'm not so sure. But still, I mean, give it off to the boys that they persevered and because of all their hard work, they were able to at least get that much away from Veracruz. So let's talk about what America didn't do. I think that's one of the more important things to talk about, because there was a matchup where everyone had written down America victory. What do you both think happened? Because this is America. This did not look like the America that played Morelia, that played Tigres. That this looked a very different side. And I'm curious to pick both of your guys' brains on this subject. What do you think happened? I'll throw it off to you first, Cesar. What do you think America lacked, doing against Veracruz that they did against all the other sides?
The first thing that came to mind was something that I saw Piojo do a little bit over in Tijuana, which was kind of questionable substitutions. I'm not saying the players that came in, but when he ended up making those subs. I don't know how you guys feel about Piojo's substitutions. I don't know what you guys think he's done so far this season, because you guys have clearly been keeping a closer eye than I have. But I think when you brought in Ibargüen in the 64th minute, that was a good call. But then he waited until the 77th minute to bring on Henry Martin. Joe Corona didn't step in until 86th minute. I just think those last two subs should have been brought on a lot earlier. I think those could have potentially made a bigger difference, and maybe that's why he made those subs so late that you end up seeing that equalizer in injury time. So I think that was something that's a little bit questionable. But when you're looking at the good, when you're looking at the good, especially from Piojo, once again, you saw him on the sideline. You saw that intensity. You saw that energy from the guy, and I do think that there are very few teams that in the Liga MX that what America did and what Piojo did during those last few minutes. I think there are very, 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 very few teams in the league that would have done that. I just think it was extremely impressive. And it would have been that surprising if they were to get those 2 goals right there in injury time. So yeah, you gotta applaud Piojo. You gotta applaud America for that team spirit. But once again, I don't know. I don't know. Once again, I don't know how you guys feel, but I'm a little hesitant about the decision making between his subs and how late they were.
Dylan, I'm gonna throw this one out to you because this is a subject that you've talked about, quite a lot on the podcast in regards to Piojo substitutions.
Yeah, no, I agree with Cesar too. There's times and times again where we came to discuss about this, where the players that Piojo brings on, they're good players too, and And so it just questions me, like, what makes him want to bring them on so late, and why he doesn't make the changes now. As a great coach as he is, and time again we've seen the magic he can do, but it's just the substitutions that he's not making them at the right time and stuff like that. And another thing too that kind of stuck out to me was the mistakes. It didn't seem like we were on our passing game a little bit too as well, making some mistakes here and there. And these are mistakes that you should have cleaned up, after like maybe the first week and maybe in preseason too, like that. We're making mistakes that we don't need to make right now at this point in time in the season.
No, yeah, I agree. I think America played too comfortable. I think they went into that pitch knowing that they were the better side, but they didn't really prove it. I think they gave Veracruz a little bit too much time on the ball, and I think maybe a little bit the conditions. It was very humid. Yeah, I think that may have played on a part on the players as well. Even so, I think we had everything right in order to go and get the 3 points. I think America lacked some intensity right off the bat in both halves. And I think, like Dylan, you mentioned, we were very sloppy on the ball at times as well. So, I mean, overall, a pretty good result. I think we have to say, a very good game by Veracruz. I think, it showed that they were playing for, to stay up in the league. And we respected them a little bit too much. And I think, we had our opportunities. We didn't take them. But I think overall a pretty fair result. I don't know what you gentlemen think.
Yeah, I think, when you're talking about Veracruz too, just, one thing that comes to mind is just, how much this is really going to hurt the team. How much it's really, really going to hurt this side. Because right now, they're the leading relegation candidates. Of course, Lobos BWAP can slip up too, and they can stumble, potentially be the leading relegation candidate. But right now, it's Veracruz. And that win would have been so crucial for them. And it's just so, you can imagine from the players' perspectives, like how disheartening it must be for them to be just seconds, essentially, away. Just literally seconds away from solidifying 3 points against against arguably the best Liga MX side so far this season. And that must be so heartbreaking for them. So I think going forward, obviously this isn't the Veracruz soccer podcast, but I do think just because it's a talking point right now with the relegation race, I do wonder if this is just not if things are gonna fall apart even worse, but if this is just gonna be somewhat of a, I don't know, like a sign of more things to come, more negative games to come for Veracruz.
If we're trying to touch up on, no, go ahead, Dylan. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, just kind of like what we kind of talked about too after the game ended. And the point is going to mean something in the end, but the 3 points were there. Instead of splitting the points, we should have taken the 3 points. But in the end, like you said, I think the positive we can take out of this was, we're still unbeaten in the Liga MX, the only unbeaten team right now in the league. So, that's one positive you can take out of it, but there's a lot of negatives too as well, as we kind of touched on a little bit too as well.
No, yeah, I agree with you. And before I touch up on that, I want to go back to what Cesar was saying about Veracruz. I think if the team mentality for Veracruz going forward should be, look, we didn't get the 3 points, but look how we played against a very, very strong opposition. Yeah, I think if they can just go with that and say, look, all we need to do is just, work on, just staying a little bit more focused and closing out the games, then I think Veracruz has everything in order to stay up. They have a very good roster. They have a good coach with plenty of experience in the league. So I think, like you said, it's going to be a very interesting race, especially, with Veracruz being the number one candidate to go. But, I hopefully, for Veracruz sakes, they can find the right, I guess, chemistry to put them forward. And I think they showed it against America. Now it's just a matter of actually, being able to concentrate and fully fulfill those 90 minutes without, losing concentration, especially at a set piece, so vital.
Although if we're being honest, I'd rather see Veracruz go down than Lobos BWAP. So
okay, well, you guys heard it here first. Cesar doesn't like Veracruz.
No, just I think there are a lot of reasons why people don't like Veracruz, but also just the playing style between them and Lobos BWAP, and it's a little bit more fun to watch Lobos BWAP. Obviously, it's a big deal for a lot of these players, like their careers, but just strictly from a tactical kind of like fan perspective, I do think I would prefer to see Lobos BWAP stay up as opposed to Veracruz.
If I'm fan-wise, I'm going with Veracruz only because one, Layun played there, and Carlos also was the coach for there plenty of times.
There you go.
So
There you go.
it should be interesting, though. It should be interesting. So, overall, the results, 1-1, I think fair enough for both sides. Like I said, I think America lacked a little bit of what they were doing before, and because of that, we weren't able to walk away with the 3 points. But overall, like you said, Dylan, we're still undefeated in the league. This is obviously going to play highly to the players' confidence. Moving forward, we have the Coca Champions next, and afterwards, Xolos. Do you think this is actually something that will favor America going forward, or do you think this is gonna be a little bit kind of playing on the players' head, like, oh, we're undefeated, kind of go a little bit too cocky, flying a little bit too close to the sun, and then ultimately, kind of just fall apart?
Yeah, I kind of think, the players can get a little big headed at this point. I think we kind of say that too whenever they play Veracruz a little bit, but, I just think, maybe this draw was good to bring them back down to earth a little bit so they don't get too big headed, even though they can still ride on that, with knowing that they're undefeated, going into Costa Rica when they play Coca Champions, carrying that too whenever we play Cholo Saturday too. So, just not get too big headed. I think this draw was good enough to bring us down to earth a little bit more.
Cesar, what do you think? Do you think America can continue their good run of form and stay undefeated coming up in these next 2 matchups?
I think so. I don't think it would be that surprising. I mean, obviously it's Liga MX, so it's unpredictable, and inevitably, I mean, unless if you're charging through like Monterrey has been recently, I think that inevitably America is going to get that loss. 2 losses, could even be 3. It wouldn't be, honestly, once again, it wouldn't be that surprising. Whether they're going to stay undefeated this week, yeah, I think so. I think that I mean, when you look at the depth that America has, I mean, especially, I mean, for example, I mean, Linus isn't playing. Ibarwen's on the bench. Joe Corona, I know he's not the most exciting option, but I mean, when he I think he could work very well with Guido Rodriguez. I mean, you guys got Edson Alvarez is on the bench. You guys have some depth there. You guys have some depth there that other teams would love to have, other than maybe Monterrey or Tigres, but that's just because they're on a different level there. But yeah. I think against Saprissa, I think you can easily get a win there away. And against Xolos, I know we're going to talk about it later, but I think America is going to get I don't think it's going to be a convincing win. I think Xolos are a little bit more defensively strong than a lot of people give them credit for. I mean, I think you saw what they've done the first few games of the season, but I can imagine them getting a win there, at least a narrow win.
Okay. Yeah. I agree with you in most part of too in that Cholo matchup. I think it's gonna be tight, but we'll discuss a little bit more about that once we get there. I guess now is a better time than ever than to jump into the Conca Champions. So finally, America plays again in a familiar tournament. Well, not too familiar because they did change the structure of it. No more group stage. We're automatically going into the round of knockouts. Just a quick assessment from you boys. How do you guys feel about this new structure in regards to no more group stage, going straight into the knockout stages? What do you guys think about this, Cesar?
I think it's more exciting. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, those some of those early group stage matches or some of the early matches, the original version of the CONCACAF Champions League, it was boring, man. It felt like, I don't know, it felt on the level of like a unexciting Copa MX match, and I think Copa MX, that really needs to change too, man. Because I mean, I haven't been following. I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't really been following like 60 to 70, 80% of those games of Copa MX just because how dull they are. I mean, I'm being completely who's taking time out of the day to watch those games? But anyway, that's a different conversation right there. But I do think this is good. I think that when you have this immediate knockout round, it makes it more exciting. It puts a lot more weight into these games. I just think that now it's a little strange because it's the 2018 CONCACAF Champions League, but then, like, for example, Saprissa, they got qualified in because they're the 2016 Invierno champions in Costa Rica, and just the way that everyone's qualified now, it's like you're gonna have that weird little staggering. Wonky, it's a little confusing. But that said, I mean, I'm a fan of the new setup just because I know, it just puts so much more importance in these games.
Okay, Dylan.
Yeah, basically what Cesar said, it pressures the team to perform well and to perform good, to going into the next round and everything. That it's more exciting, and just the pressure on the team and especially the coach, to perform. And it's just the confusing part too as well. I didn't really understand how teams qualified and stuff like that. But I mean, yeah, just basically all what Cesar said. It's more exciting and more favorable to watch.
Okay, understandable. Cesar, correct me if I'm wrong. Is Saprissa the club that has some affiliation with Guadalajara?
Yeah, to an extent, but I really don't know the details of that. That's something I should know a little bit more about. But yeah, no, there is something there, but I don't know exactly what it is.
Okay, I was just making sure because I thought it was them. I wasn't 100% sure, but okay, now I got
Yeah, I got to do research on that as well. That's me slacking as a journalist right there.
That's okay. Everyone can be a little bit lazy sometimes. I'm kidding.
Almost definitely lazy.
My middle name is procrastination. So Saprissa away, Costa Rica. Me and Dylan were looking at the stats right before coming into the podcast, and it looks like Saprissa is in third place. The last 5 matchups, 3 wins, 2 draws. Their home record looks out really, really good at the moment. It looks like they haven't lost this year as of 2018. They haven't lost at home. If you're, I'm pretty sure America is a little bit more informed than us, but if you're a player, you're going into a scenario like this, you're not too familiar with the side, you're not too familiar with the field and everything. How do you guys think America will approach this matchup, knowing that the Saprissa is in pretty good form?
I mean, this is a side. This isn't like the Chivas opponent, like Cibao, who is their first time in the tournament. Saprissa, I think this is their 7th time in the CONCACAF Champions League. This is a team that knows how to deal with Liga MX squads. It knows how to deal with these big opponents. It's the most successful club in Costa Rica. Like you guys said, they're currently in 3rd place, and they do have a game in hand as well. So, I mean, they could easily sneak back into 1st place. So I just think this is a game that shouldn't be taken lightly, because when you look at all the different round of 16 opponents, you could say that America probably has a little bit more of a difficult opposition here. When you look at the fact that Xolos are taking on Motagua, I brought up Chivas' opposition, which is Cibao, and then I forget who it was, Herediano that Tigres are facing.
Yeah.
So I think that it's not something to be taken lightly. America, clearly Las Águilas are the favorites here. Clearly Las Águilas have depth, and regardless of how well Saprissa are doing, when you're at a team that's in 1st place in Liga MX with the depth that America has, they're going to be the favorites here. But yeah, like I said, it's not something to be taken lightly, and I do think that it'd be an ideal opportunity for some backups, for some fringe players to really shine, to really make a case for themselves. Like I mentioned a couple there, I think Ibargüen, I think that's a perfect opportunity there. I think Edson Alvarez too. Edson Alvarez could really, really use a good performance in this game.
I agree. Dylan, throw off that same question off to you.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a little nerve-wracking a little bit, especially those, who haven't really seen Costa Rica and never traveled, and don't know much about the team. I kind of see it a little nerve-wracking too, just because how good Saprissa is right now, how good they seem to do. And, the undefeated at home, one thing me and you always mention, it's never easy being the away team, we're traveling and, going into, like I said, the side that hasn't lost at home so far this year. And so, but, I still feel like we can get the job done. I still feel like Piojo's going to put the lineup together that's going to get the job done, a strong starting 11. I think it's going to be similar to what we kind of played against Morelia, just a few players rotated here and there. Do I really know, could I really say who's going to start and stuff like that? But no, I mean, because, we're not really sure how Piojo's going to rotate the squad around or anything like that. But, kind of like Cesar said, Ibargüen, Edson, those are 2 players that I'd like to see start, just because I think this would be a good opportunity for them to shine and put on a good performance for Piojo.
Okay, I agree. The only thing I'm worried about is that America's going into this away matchup, and I'm guessing the conditions may be the same as against Veracruz. It's going to be an environment where I'm pretty sure it's going to be humid. It's not going to be, like when we go play in the Estadio Azteca. Obviously, the different conditions, everything like that. We saw America maybe not feel too comfortable in that Veracruz environment. Is there something to worry about in regards to that playing a factor in America's game?
Yeah, I mean, you look at someone like Mané. I think Mané looked a little tired in that Veracruz game, and I think that if he gets the start here, maybe he could potentially get some minutes here. That's a little worrisome for Medica, but that's also assuming that he gets the start. And I think that's a big question. I mean, I honestly, I mean, I think you guys would know better than I do, just because you guys have been following the team. What would the starting 11 look like in this game? But I think that if someone like Mané, who's crucial in the attack right now, I know that Martin's been there. I know that Oribe's there. It's clear that they're trying to work in Mané a little bit more. But I mean, it's just if he looked that tired in Veracruz, I mean, it might be the same in Costa Rica.
Okay, I agree. That's my only real main concern. But I mean, if we push through that, I think if America really wants to get a result here, I think it's going to be important that they do not give too much time on the ball with Saprissa. I think the more we can hold the possession, like we have for most of the season, the more opportunity we have to dictate the play, to move the ball around, and to kind of really, cement the playing style that we like, that Piojo intends for us to do. So I'm curious to see exactly what do you guys think the result's going to be away at Saprissa.
Anyway. One question I kind of have, that I don't know about. Do away goals or anything favor in the
yes.
CONCACAF?
Yes, away goals favor. So it's going to be very important for America to actually get one.
I'll probably go with the 1-0 result for America, in favor of America.
Okay.
I think it could be. I'm going to go with a 2-1 win here for America. I think, like as I mentioned earlier, that there's some bench options that have a lot to prove. I've already mentioned a few of those names already, but I think that if you're a backup, I think this will be an ideal opportunity to really show off in front of Piojo Herrera. So especially like if you can show off and do that in Costa Rica, and if you do that against a side like Saprissa, once again, I don't think that they're a side that should be taken lightly. Then I think that could make a really good case for yourself in future matches too.
I agree. And going on that, I want to predict the starting 11 here, and I'll go first, and then I'll let Dylan take a chance.
I'll let you guys do this. I'm not going to do this.
And so I'm going with what Cesar is saying too, that we're going to see a lot of rotation, a lot of these bench players get the start, and it's going to be very vital that they perform. I think I'm going off in goal Marche. We're going with that 4-4-2. That's actually worked wonders for us so far this season. I'm going Paulo Aguilar, right back, center back, Edson Alvarez, the other center back, Emmanuel Aguilera, left back, Carlos Vargas, right mid, Renato Ibarra. In the midfield, I think we're going to see William da Silva and Joe Corona. In the left mid, we're going to see Ibargüen. And up top, I think it's going to be the same duo, Henry Martin with Oribe Peralta. What's your take, Dylan?
You just read my mind, man. That's the exact same thing I was thinking.
All right, well, it's gonna be a heavy rotational squad. We know that, but I think we're going into this pretty confident, because 6 months ago we wouldn't have had the same confidence if we would have rotated the squad we had then. I think now, like Cesar said, there's a lot more depth, there's a lot more confidence, and you can even imagine seeing a Dano Quintero come off the bench and still having a pretty big impact. So it's nice to be able to have the depth. It's nice to be able to have some confidence, and these players have a lot to prove, which kind of fills you a little bit more with confidence, knowing that they're gonna go out there. You're gonna hope that they're gonna perform, because they want to kind of put their hands up and say, hey, look, I can perform with you in the starting 11 in the league as well. So it should be an interesting matchup. The matchup is tomorrow, I believe, 5 o'clock our time, which is 7 o'clock your time, Dylan. I believe.
I should know this.
I think so.
I just wrote an article about yeah, it's tomorrow 5 o'clock Pacific time. Yeah.
All right, 5 o'clock Pacific time. 7 o'clock your time, Dylan. So it should be interesting. So for all of you guys listening, make sure you guys tune in tomorrow on Twitter. Make sure you guys follow us at Eagle Eye Pod. We're going to be following the whole game live. We're going to be live tweeting. We're going to be getting you guys' reactions. We're going to be giving you guys our thoughts, and we're going to be letting you guys know exactly everything that goes on minute by minute. Make sure you guys follow these two gentlemen as well on Twitter. Dylan is and Cesar's Twitter handle is in the description down below in the show notes. And if you guys ever, for whatever reason, miss an episode, don't forget we are on SoundCloud and iTunes as well, so you guys can always take us on the go. Gentlemen, that we're coasting through this pretty quickly. Anything else you guys want to add on about the Conca Champions in regards to the Saprissa America matchup?
I think when you look at the beginning of the season and you knew that, say you already knew what the schedule was like, that the first game against Saprissa was this week, I think you couldn't have asked for a better start for America. If someone would have told you guys, in early January that America match in first place, undefeated, and that they had backup players that needed to push for a starting role. They needed to push to really showcase and really impress. I was about to say Osorio. That tells you where mine's at right now. Needed to impress Piojo. I mean that's exactly what you guys would have wanted, right? I don't think it could have. I don't think it could have been. There are a few situations which would be better than what you guys currently have. I mean, obviously, things can change quite quickly for Mexican clubs and the Liga MX. Who knows if this game and other midweek matches are going to end up, hurting America a little bit and they'll drop down the league table. But I think this is the perfect setup for you guys, right?
Yeah, I think it is. If you would have told me that, I would have maybe called you a little bit crazy because I'm not the type of person to be so optimistic when it comes to my team. I feel like the more the more you actually think, oh yeah, we're gonna be the best, the more chances you are not. But it is the perfect situation. Like you would not have thought of a better situation that America could be in because of everything that's been going on last season with Piojo's first apertura coming back from the from Xolos, excuse me. It wasn't the best performance towards the end. You were a little bit skeptical about what was to come, prior to that with everything that happened with La Volpe, so it is actually the perfect scenario. Like you said, these CONCACAF Champion League matchups could play, could play a very big part in us maybe slipping up in the league because you can always have an injury, you can always have players maybe lose a little bit of form here and there because of the flights and the traveling. But overall, I think you're right. There's this confidence, there's this sense that we can push for both tournaments. We do have the squad for it. We have the depth, and ideally, this is the right scenario that you want as an Americanista. Dylan, what's your take on what Cesar was saying?
If Cesar would have told me that at the beginning of January, I probably would have got excited, but then I would have woke up.
Thinking it was all a dream?
Yeah, it's all a dream. So, but no, I mean, we're in a good spot right now. Ivan, something that me and you kind of talked about at the beginning of the season too is, if you could take one trophy or one tournament, which would it be? And me and you both agreed that it was the Conca Champions. And at this point though in time, you can kind of see that maybe we can take both the Clausura and the Conca Champions. So it's a good time right now. I feel like we're sky high, especially being in first place right now a little bit. And so, it's just a good time right now overall for America.
Yeah, and if it's the Americanista in me really, screaming out from the top of my lungs, it's me saying it's time to show why we're the #1 club in Mexico, So it's time for the players to show up. It's time for the club to step up, and I think this is the perfect moment. So ideally, it can be better, and hopefully it will be better as time progresses because I think we're due for at least a pretty good run.
At the very least, you guys are going to the quarterfinals. You're going to quarterfinals and you guys are going to the playoffs. But then again, like you guys said, it's interesting to talk to you guys because and I'm sure it's the same with the two of you, but just the expectations of an America fan are just so much different than any other team in Liga MX.
Oh, yeah.
As someone who talks to, hangs out, and goes to Tijuana all the time, the fans just either want to go back into the playoffs or just to have really fun games at home. That's what they expect. There is no need to push for the title because obviously it's a very young team, so it's really, I know it's different to compare that to America too, but it's just for you guys as America fans, even I would imagine that you wouldn't run into many America fans who are angry if you guys made it to the final of the league, final of the CONCACAF, Champions League as well, and if he didn't get a title, which is kind of and just for so many other clubs, that would be an astonishing feat. But then again, I guess it must be a bittersweet kind of a fandom for you guys, because even though America consistently does well, you guys always have such high expectations. So there must be the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, like consistently.
Oh yeah,
as America
fans,
yeah,
definitely. Because as it's an institution that throughout time has proven to be the best, and you're in competition with another institution that is claiming to be the best as well. You're neck and neck, and as anyone knows, in competition you always want to be the one above. And like you said, it's an expectation that you're brought into since if for example, like me, since birth, everyone in my family's been an Americanista, so you learn that no matter what, the club is expected to not just win titles, but to play good, to dominate, and to show in whatever tournament that you are the best. And we've seen a little bit of that this season, which is good. But whether we can continue to do that, it's going to be up to Piojo and the players to see how well they can perform. But like you said, it's a bittersweet fandom, because even if we were to get to the both finals and lose in both, every fan's gonna be calling for some heads.
Yeah,
which is crazy, like absolutely crazy. But I mean, it is what it is. But I mean, this is why you support the team. This is why you go for them, because it's like no other experience. It really is, and I guess it just molds you to be a different person as well.
Yeah, and then you'll see what happens after Piojo inevitably leaves as well and tries to get back with the national team, right?
Yeah, but you know what? I've talked to Dylan about this. This is the perfect situation for me. The perfect situation would be that Piojo Herrera actually goes to the Mexican national team, but at the same time, it's Cuauhtemoc Blanco coming in and taking over the club and having his credentials already for him to be the manager. That would be.
You guys want Blanco to be the manager? I would love to see that. I mean,
ask anyone in the world would want to see Cuauhtemoc Blanco. He's even said himself he wants to be America's coach, and I think it's ideal for him to kind of just leave the political stuff aside, go do his studying for the manager spot.
Also, wouldn't you want him to go? Not to put down this idea. Would you want him to go for a smaller club, kind of maybe have him work with the U20 Americas first?
No. Just throw him in there. He's even said it himself. He doesn't want to go into another club. He wants to go straight in there. And I think, okay, this is the thing. It can go either both ways. He can have total success or he can flop. I mean, we've seen. I guess maybe the closest perfect example is what Zidane has done at Madrid. He's been able to, this club legend has been able to come in and give trophies to the club. Whether or not he would be like that, I'm not too sure. But I think if we're thinking about Piojo leaving, the only suitable replacement for me at the moment is Cuauhtemoc Blanco.
Wow. Not Ruben Omar Romano.
No. He had a shot. No.
I just wanted to see a reaction more than anything else. Sorry, guys.
No. He had a shot. No, my gosh. No.
I told Ivan that Cuauhtemoc Blanco is going to come back as a player coach.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
In one game.
It's all fun and games until that actually happens and he steps on the second half and hits the crossbar twice, with his belly sticking out. Just oh my god. Oh geez. Do we have to call him back to the national team? I don't know. We might. Bring up 2022.
2022. He's gonna come back. He's gonna score the winning penalty in the final against Chivas, and Juan Carlos Osorio, if he's still the coach. No, Piojo is gonna be the coach for Mexico, so he'd have to call him. And Cuauhtemoc's gonna be making history again. So I mean, he's that type of character. But I mean, ideally, yeah. Just to kind of wrap it all up in regards to that, I don't really have any other manager in mind. I mean, unless we're thinking, outside of Mexico. I mean, I can name a couple, but
I mean, I think we don't have to get into this now, but I do think that Mexican clubs need to be a little bit more adventurous with their decisions over who's going to be managers. I think Santos do a good job of that. I think Santos kind of bring in some interesting options, but for the most part, I mean, I say the reason why I brought Ruben Omar Romano is because he is the definition of a coach that's just recycled through same ideas. Everyone knows what to expect, blah, 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 and then he gets fired, and then you'll have I don't know. He's just like the epitome of that. And I do think I would hope that a team like an organization like America would try to choose someone different. I mean, right now when you look at the current options, I mean, you could say the best Liga MX manager is Tuca, but Tuca is going to retire with Tigres. I mean, he's just going to retire. That's just what's going to happen. So it would be kind of cool to see America like reach for someone there, reach for someone that's really shoot for the stars too. Try to get like a big name in there. Will that happen? I mean, you never know, but that would be pretty cool to see. Just because I mean, so many teams, so many Liga MX teams just recycle these managers, and it gets a little dull sometimes. It gets a little dull when you see the same faces all over again.
I mean, we could bring back La Puente from retirement.
Or even someone like Ojitos Mesa. Like, yeah, I know he's doing well, but God, just let him retire.
It's just the reputation that they carry, I guess. It really that's all. I mean, really, Ojitos. I mean, I'm surprised no one's actually called for. I don't know if he's doing anything right now, but El Vasco Aguirre.
I don't know what that guy's up to right now. Sometimes I think he's still in Europe right now. So,
I mean, I'm surprised no one's actually called him up. Like, hey, you know, because he's proven to be a pretty decent coach. Obviously showed in the national team, and he's obviously managed here in Mexico as well. So I mean, it's crazy that no one's actually been like, yo, why don't we get Vasco?
Yeah, I know he went to see a Hector Moreno game when he was still with Roma. Like he was there for some odd reason, like 2 or 3 months ago. But yeah, I don't know what else he's up to nowadays.
Wow, that could be a total different podcast on its own. Managers that potentially could manage in the Liga MX or that have been recycled.
Yeah, exactly.
There's plenty to talk about there. Alrighty, well, let's move on to the Tijuana preview. This is something that's very close to you, obviously, because you do cover the team extensively. It should be interesting to hear from you exactly what you think. Obviously, you're going to be, talking in regards to everything about Xolos, and it'll be interesting to see what you have to say about them coming into this matchup. But as an Americanista, we really won't focus too much on what happens against Saprissa, seeing as that's its own competition. It will probably play on the player's mind, but ultimately, Dylan, how do you feel America's coming into this Tijuana matchup? Do you like it? Do you think that maybe we should be a little bit cautious, a little bit worried, or do you think that we should be fine?
I think it would be a good matchup. Like Cesar said earlier in the show, Tijuana doesn't get enough credit when it comes to being defensive, and especially Lahoud, breaking the record of longest games, not having conceded a goal. You give credit to him making some saves too, and you give credit to the defense for just keeping those shots out. So that's one thing one area that we kind of focus on. When it comes to our shots and finish stuff like that, that's one thing we've kind of been a little inconsistent on. Just a little bit, not too much, but just a little bit when it comes to scoring goals too. And so I think it's going to be a good game. I don't feel nervous or anything like that. I feel more excited because I know this is probably going to be an excited matchup coming up Saturday.
Okay. Cesar, what? No, go ahead.
I was just saying what I think of is that there is a strong Xolos presence right now in America. I mean, if you look at it, you got Piojo, you got Carlos Vargas, you have Aguilera, you have Guido, you have Joe Corona, you have Henry Martin. That several players who are well aware of how Xolos play, how certain players will anticipate playing this game. And that's at the same time, though, you could say, well, what about when you look at Xolos' defense? Pablo Aguilera, exactly. You look at Pablo Aguilera, who I think has been one of Xolos' best players so far this season.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's going to be interesting to watch, interesting to follow. I mean, yeah, Xolos have done quite well defensively, and I think a lot of that has to do with Aguilar and also Lahoud. I think Lahoud has exceeded expectations. I think he was worthy of getting that national team call-up in January. Whether we're going to see him in the World Cup, I think that's doubtful. He's a goalkeeper for the future, but no need to bring him up to Russia this summer. But yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating to watch because right now Xolos, there's a big question mark regarding Xolos' attack because as good as they were defensively, just in the attack, things have been pretty miserable. I mean, I know they just beat Pumas 4-1 last week, and I know that's something to focus on too. But that was just one game. That one in the Puebla match, they did well in the attack. I think that Puebla game highlighted how well the team could do with like a 4-1-3-2 attacking style system. But I mean, there's just in the other matches, there are just so many worries, and especially since Xolos' star striker, Gustavo Bo, he's going to be doubtful. I mean, in fact, doubtful might even be an understatement here because more than likely he's just not going to play just because he has injuries. So the big question for Xolos is which player is going to step up? Is it going to be Mateus Gonçalves? Because he got 2 goals and assist over the weekend, but I mean, that was his first start. I don't know if he can replicate that again. And then looking past him, it's difficult to find someone else in the attack who really is going to be, I don't know, finding the back of the net. So that's something that I'm going to be keeping an eye on, at least from Xolos' perspective.
Okay. Ideally, yeah, that probably is a big concern to see who's going to step it up. Talking a little bit about Lahoud, I told Dylan that Lahoud started stepping up after me and you played that FIFA matchup. Lahoud made a tremendous amount of saves in that matchup, and all of a sudden,
he was a beast in that game, man. He was a beast.
So I mean, I don't know. I mean, FIFA, I don't know, but he's gonna be a very important player in the Xolos defense. I think like you said, Dylan, it's gonna be a very exciting matchup. I kind of tend to look forward to these matchups because they usually don't disappoint. I mean, last season we saw what Xolos get the draw at home against America when America was already winning 1-0. You saw a very exciting matchup because Xolos kept pressing and pushing forward. I think like you said though, America maybe has a little bit of the upper hand here because all those players that you mentioned know the system, know the club, know exactly what to expect from certain players. I think the aerial battle is going to be a difficult one because America Piojo really likes for Renato to get out wide and cross the ball. It's going to be a difficult one now that Pablo Aguilar is there. We know his strengths, but the team also knows his weaknesses. So I think if we can get behind him and use and abuse Henry Martin's speed or our wingers, I think from an America's fan perspective, I think that's the way for it to go. I mean, Piojo obviously would have a better strategy. But overall, I think this is a game that probably will not disappoint. I hope it doesn't because it should be fun to watch in all aspects. So what do you think Xolos' perspective is coming into this matchup, Cesar?
I mean, right now, Coca, Xolos' manager, I think he's gonna look for a point here. I think I know I mentioned the 4-1-3-2 earlier, but based off of how he's played so far this season against big teams, based off how he's played in away games, based off of the comments that were made about him before the season started, people described him as a pragmatic manager, that he likes to play with the 4-4-2 or 4-4-1-1. So I would not be surprised at all, knowing that he got a very crucial win in hand, that he's going to sit back, he's going to go, and once again, there's so much time right here. I mean, who knows how healthy Bo is going to be. Once again, I don't think he's going to be ready for the game, but who knows of the health of other players like Michael Roscoe, who was originally starting at right back, but then he had some injury problems. But I would not be surprised at all if it was a very defensive-minded 4-1-4-1 that is seeking just to frustrate America for the full 90 minutes. And just to, I mean, I would imagine that Coco probably watched Veracruz and was probably thinking, you know what, I'm going to try to do the same thing, but during injury time, we're just not going to allow that late goal. So I think I think that's going to be the goal here. I still think it could be an exciting game because you do have some intriguing attacking options for Xolos. I do hope that Mateus gets another start because he was such a risk taker for Tijuana. And I think potentially on counters, he could be such an interesting player to watch this weekend. But yeah, I would not be surprised, like I said, if it was a very defensive-minded 4-1-4-1 seeking just to frustrate America.
Okay. Which now I'm gonna throw it off to you, Dylan. It looks like if this is the case, it'd be something that America has seen quite already this season. Teams coming into the Azteca, kind of sitting back, soaking in the pressure, and trying to walk away with at least a draw, or maybe try to get us on the counterattack. How do you think Piojo will approach this matchup, knowing that we've seen this before, that we're gonna get most of the ball? How do you think Piojo is gonna approach it?
I think, he's going to come out his 4-4-2, like you said, something that's always worked for him. I think Guido Rodriguez is going to play an important part in the midfield, whether, they catch us on the counter. I think he's going to be an important part stopping the counter. I think he's going to be somebody that's going to want to place the ball into the attack, distribute it out into, getting something started for us. Because, like I've always told to me, I always think a game is won in the midfield. And, Guido Rodriguez right now has been the key for us in the midfield. And I think it's going to lay on him a little bit more. I don't think he's had a game where people said, this is a bad game for Guido. Guido's had almost what we could say a perfect season, in my opinion, a little bit. And so, in the end, Piojo's going to have to cope, whether, like Cesar said, if Tijuana sit back, frustrate America, he's going to have to cope with that, find different ways to break down the defense, and when it comes to substitutions, make the substitutions at the right time instead of waiting so long to make those substitutions.
I'm glad that Guido's having such a good season with America, because I will say that when he was with Tijuana, he was probably one of my favorite players to watch from that team. And I always said that the work that he does, at least what he did with Tijuana, was the work of two defensive midfielders. Having him in the middle is just like, it was such a luxury for Tijuana. And I think he was a key reason why, back when Tijuana was finishing in first place of the regular season, he was a key reason why they were doing that. It was just they knew there was just so much confidence knowing that he was going to do whatever possible to stop plays. Yeah, it led to some yellows, and you guys have definitely seen that. You guys have definitely seen him getting those yellows, getting those cards, but it was worth it in the end, just because of how much he would disrupt play. I do wish that, he would be such an exciting player if he was a little bit faster. Maybe if he was a little bit more of a risk taker going forward. Maybe if he had provided some exciting long crosses or long passes. But that it doesn't really matter, just because of how good he is at disrupting the game. And like I said, he's just, he does the work of two defensive midfielders. So it's, once again, that's going to be a problem for Tijuana, but for America, that's a promising player too, because it's not like this guy is a veteran either. He's a young Argentine player. So,
oh yeah, he's very, I want to say very young, but he's starting to grow as a player. Like you said, now we're enjoying that luxury of him. He's performing day in and day out. I think he's settled in that role, and I think he's gotten a little bit more mature in the sense that he's not so reckless at times. I think
he's still going to be reckless for a little bit, though. That's just part of his DNA, I think.
Yeah, but there's times where he's a little bit more smarter when it comes to the tackling. When granted, he can be reckless at times, but I think he does so when he suits that it's at the right moment, which is, I think, speaks highly about him. But like you guys said, it should be an interesting matchup. Will be an interesting matchup. Ultimately, I think if America, starts off the way we've mentioned time and time again, just goes for it, pressures, puts Tijuana against the ropes a little bit quickly in the matchup. If we can get an early goal and kind of dictate the game from there, I think we'll definitely be the team to walk away with all 3 points. With that said, I think we're both in agreement, Dylan, that the man that is going to be the most important for America in this matchup is going to be Guido. I'm curious to see who is going to be Tijuana's key player for this matchup, Cesar.
I think that that'll be Damian Musto. Damian Musto, it was the way that people talked him up before he went to Tijuana. They're saying oh, if you like Guido Rodriguez, you're going to fall in love with Damian Musto, because apparently he had more experience. He was a little bit better going forward. But I will say he is an excellent defensive midfielder, not at the same levels as Guido, but enough that he kind of plays the same role that Guido has with America. This is a guy that will disrupt play. I think he is I think he's a little bit more aggressive than Guido. I think Guido has a little bit more potential. I think Guido is a little bit of a better player, but Musto is going to be the key guy there to really halt a lot of chances that are being created by America. So I think if there's any hope that Xolos at least get a draw here, any hope that they at least could surprisingly get a win, it's going to be up to Musto. I think it's going to be very difficult. I think it's unlikely to happen, just because I think America's the better side, and they have a better momentum right now. They have better rhythm. They're probably going to get a win this week, and it's going to boost the morale even further. But I think if there is a chance for them to stop America, I think it's going to be through the likes of Musto in the middle for Xolos.
All right. Interesting enough. And indeed, So just to kind of wrap it up, what are your guys' prediction? Dylan, what's your prediction for the matchup?
I'll go 2-1. America win.
Okay, Cesar.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a 2-1. I think that I think maybe Mateos is gonna get the start. Maybe he'll get a goal there for Xolos, but yeah, I mean at the Azteca, with a lot of players that are familiar with Xolos' roster, I think that Tijuana is gonna end up getting a loss here. So yeah, I'll go with the 2-1 win for America.
Alrighty, 2-1, 2-1. I'm going 4-2, just to be a little random number out there, but still going with that America victory. Hopefully, either one of those score lines actually go through for us. Ultimately, so I guess that pretty much wraps it up for the Tijuana preview. Should be an interesting matchup. So again, you guys make sure you guys tune in. Matchup is Saturday, 7 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Central time. 10 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure you guys do follow us on Twitter. Like I've mentioned, we will be following that matchup extensively. Pretty much we're running down to the end of the podcast here. Quickly, we just want to say thank you again, Cesar, for being able to jump on the podcast.
Of course. Thanks for having me, guys. Thanks for having me. Good time.
It was kind of important for us to get you on the podcast too. I think me and Dylan, before we, I think a lot of credit because of this podcast started was kind of has to go back to you. When both me and Dylan kind of reached out to you saying, hey, look, we kind of want to follow in some of the footsteps that you and some of the other people down at the Mexican Soccer Show kind of do. So we reached out to you and you kind of gave us, kind of the edge, the nudge, like do this, maybe mold yourself this way. So, I think I speak for me and Dylan as well. Thank you for kind of, giving us that advice.
Yeah, well, you just keep it going, guys. I mean, anyone out there too who are just like, oh, I want to start a podcast, I want to do my own thing, just do it, man. Do it. It's like we need more English language coverage. We know that. I mean, we all know that. I mean, like apparently the Mexican national team's gonna be doing some stuff in English, but I mean, if the Liga MX clubs aren't doing it, then we should be doing it, right? I mean, we're the fans. We're watching the games. We're all a growing demographic in the United States. We're literally speaking about Mexican soccer in English right now, and we're going to interact with people on Twitter afterwards because it's interesting to us. And I don't know. I think if you have any interest, even if it's a second division team in Mexico, go for it. Start a podcast. Start like tweeting out about games. Start a new podcast. Start a new Twitter account. I don't know. I'm glad you guys. I'm just saying, I'm glad you guys are doing it, and thank you.
No, thank you, Dylan. Anything you wanna add on?
Yeah, man. Just thank you in general, man. I mean, I remember asking you on your SSR article. You got some advice for a young broadcaster because here at college too, man. I do some broadcasting. I do play-by-play, color commentary too. So I'm able to do that. I do commentate the women's soccer games here too sometimes whenever they play, and so it's just something that you helped me start too, man. You're helping me live my dream just by the advice that you gave me, man. So like I appreciate it, man. Just keep doing what you're doing too, man. I love it. Don't listen to Ivan. I'm your number one fan, man. Don't listen to anybody else.
Dylan, you're gonna be more successful than me, man. I studied psychology at college, man, and it's just like I don't know. You probably know a lot more about journalism than I do, man. So keep it going, dude. It's only a matter of time before you're my boss and telling me what to do. So,
again, thank you, Cesar, for being on the pod. Just last two questions, and we'll wrap it up here. One, what advice do you have for the younger generation that kind of look up to what you're doing and maybe want to follow in the footsteps of you? And two, food recommendations for when you go down to Tijuana.
Well, I'll start with the food recommendations. I mean, it's a little bit more depends on who you ask, but honestly, I think.
Oh, it looks like we have a little bit of a technical difficulty. Oh, there you go.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, Taqueria Frank. They just have like great stuff over there. It's not too far away from the stadium. I also think that Taco Nassel, there's like 2 or 3 different locations. Actually, one really close to the stadium, and you sometimes run into some Tijuana players over there. After like some of the youth players and some of the older players, like I've seen like Joe Corona was there, Alejandro Guido has been there. There's one close to the stadium, so I would recommend Taco Nassel. For those who want to do what I'm doing, not just what I'm doing, what you guys are doing too. Just like I said earlier, just start it. Start it. And if you ever had that interest, if you have a passion about soccer, if you love the Mexican national team, if you love, it doesn't even have to be Mexican soccer. If you listen to this just because you have a slight interest in Mexican soccer and you love some second division team somewhere in the United States, start a podcast, start a Twitter account, start a blog, something, man. It's just, I mean, I think we need more of this. And I think that it's exciting to see a lot of this because, I mean, back in the day, it was like me, Tom, Naib, and like Wiso, and we were like the only guys like talking about this stuff on Twitter. And like, then sometimes it kind of felt a little strange, thinking like, is anyone even listening? Does anyone even really care? And I thought about that for all, but it's clear that there is a significant amount of people who do care. There's a significant amount of Mexican Americans, Chicanos, Latinx, people who really do care about Mexican soccer, and we're speaking about it in English because we're more comfortable speaking English because, obviously we grew up here in the United States, but of course we still have that strong cultural ties to Mexico, whether it be because of our mom, our dad, our tios, our tias, or our abuelita, or abuelitos. I mean, clearly we still have that cultural tie, and a lot of it has to do with soccer too. I mean, just go to any Mexican national team game. That's the best cultural celebration of Mexican pride that I've ever seen, man. So like, I mean, if you have that passion, if you love the Mexican national, if you love, like I said, would it be Chivas, the Luke? I don't care which team. It's just like, if you have that passion, start something. So it could be what you guys are doing. It could be, like I said, it could be a blog. It could be something as dumb as just an Instagram account. I don't care. Just go out there and do it, man. Just because it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I can't promise you'll make a lot of money. That's definitely something I can't promise, but it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, ultimately we're not in it for the profit. I think it's something that we love, you enjoy, and it's a passion, like you said. So great advice from Cesar himself. Well, that pretty much wraps it up. So thank you again, Cesar, for coming down and making the time. This has been episode 8. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you guys do follow Cesar at Cesar Football on Twitter, and he'll have you covered with everything Mexican national team and Liga MX. Dylan, again, thank you so much for taking out the time and joining me again to co-host the Eagle Eye podcast.
Yeah, man, no problem. Always my pleasure.
Alrighty, and thank to every single one of you guys who tuned in live and are listening to this right now via SoundCloud or iTunes. We can't do this without you guys as well. Let's keep the family growing. Again, thank you so much for everything that you guys have done for us, and we'll be seeing and talking to you guys very, very soon. And until next time, take care, guys.